Welcome to my first contribution to the TikTok Homeschool Conference. Unless you're on Instagram and watching it there, then yeah, Instagram Homeschool Conference. Today I'm going to give you a series of videos that have to deal with language arts. In this video, I want to focus on UFLI foundations, and this has to do with phonics. People ask me about it often, and so I wanted to do an updated video on it, especially because we're pretty close to the end. We're like 10 lessons away from being finished the whole program. So I feel like because we've been doing it enough time, I can give you some feedback. I know that some people who homeschool are a little off put by UFLI because it's not something as much in the homeschooling space. It's like everybody talks about all about reading, or everybody talks about logic of English. And this is one that people see as being like associated with public school. So can I do it in a homeschooling setting? Absolutely. You can do it in a homeschooling setting. And the only thing that costs you for this program is the teaching manual. So that will be $90. I think you do, in fact, need the teaching manual. I feel like somebody will probably ask me that question, so I'm going to tell you now, yes, I think you need the teaching manual. So this is what it looks like. UFLI stands for University of Florida Literacy Institute, just in case you wanted to know what the acronym was. Each one of the lessons, so this is one of the things that I like about the program. The lessons are very predictable in their structure. And so for us, that has actually made it the pacing like this. So it has prevented boredom for us. I know some people, for some programs, like, oh, it's so boring. For us, the pacing is just boop, 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 and it has not felt boring. And trust me, I have an 8-year-old who would let you know if that were the case. Like, she would tell you how boring she thinks it is, but the pacing is just right for us, and that has helped. She also has really liked the structure of like the day 1 and day 2. The stuff that you do from the lesson on day 1 feels like a little less than day 2, only because day 2, at a certain point, you're going to start reading like longer passages. And so that feels like a longer day. You're also like writing a sentence on that day. So that one takes just a little bit more brain power on day 2. So she's like, okay, I know what to expect on a day 2 day. I know what to expect on a day 1 day. And usually if she says it's a day 1 day, yay, she gets excited because she knows that one is like an easier day in her mind. So every lesson is supposed to be 2 days, like take 2 days. And their recommendation is that you do 2 lessons each week. So if you do a 4-day week for homeschooling, you can do two lessons, and then you can do review, do any kind of like checking for their understanding, have them do extra reading, that kind of stuff on the 5th day if you do 5 days a week. Or you can just go right into the first day of the next lesson if you wanted to. Or you could work on some of your other language arts stuff on that 5th day if you wanted to. Okay, so I like the pacing of the lessons. I like the predictable structure of the lessons, and so does my 8-year-old. I also like that when you buy this manual, you are getting the whole program. You are getting K through 2. We switched over from another program to this one, and my issue with like going from like logic of English or going from pinwheels rooted in language to UFLI, what if I buy the wrong level and then I have to go buy another level? It adds up. I don't live in a state where we get any kind of homeschooling funds. So like I got to be real careful about my purchases. And so I don't know if I have if I'm going to have to buy basically 2 levels of this other program. For this one, I have what I need here. And then that makes it easier to place her within the program. Also, if you are coming from another program and want to use UFLI, or you pulled them from public school and you want to do this program with them, if you could just Google it because it's free, on their website, you can just type in UFLI placement assessment and you can pull up the PDF of the placement assessment, and it tells you which lesson you could start on based on how they perform on the assessment. And if you find as you're doing like lessons with them that there was actually a gap in some of this learning, the lessons are all here in the same spot anyway. You could go back to a lesson to reteach the material. I will tell you something that you could consider a disadvantage to this program. That is that like all of their materials, apart from the teaching manual, are all located for free on their website. You don't just click here and then you get all of the decodable readers by clicking this one link. If you want the lesson 1 stuff, you gotta click that. you got to click for lesson 2, you got to click. So it's going to take you some time to set it up. Once you set it up, however, then that's like you did the prep. Like you prepped all of that stuff in advance. And then once you get used to the flow of every one of the lessons, it just almost becomes like second nature for you running the lessons. Now, if you don't want to print all of the materials, you can actually go through all of their slideshows, and they have slideshows. So I just downloaded all of them as Google slideshows, and I opened them up on my tablet, and that's how I access them, is here. And so you also get the second day's, the reading passage. It's in here as well, so they could read it from the screen. Now, if you don't like them reading it from the screen, then you are going to want to download it. I did download them, but kind of pointlessly so, and I put them into this binder. My kid prefers to read them in the slideshow, because I don't know why. Actually, that's just what she prefers. So I don't argue with her about it, because she's still reading it. Who gives a shit? So that could be something you see as a disadvantage. I feel like any program you're going to use is going to have some kind of labor involved, at least up front. So I just want you to know that that is labor involved up front. They do have games you can play online to review different lessons and lists. They do cover irregular words. How we ended up doing it, they do have cards that you can print. It has worked for us to do it this way. And so then I put the number of the lesson in the corner. And then I can also have her just like go through all of them, and I feel like we can do it quicker. So this is how I do it. I just keep them all on these cards, all of our like irregular words there. So the general structure of the lessons is, 1, you'd have phonological awareness, so it's blending and segmenting. Then you have a visual drill, and that is looking at the graphemes and then saying what sounds those graphemes can make. So for example, you might see EW, and then they would say ooh, that it can make the ooh sound, and it could also make the U sound. So that's the visual drill. Then you have the auditory drill, and that is the phonemes. So you're going to say the sound, you're going to tell them the sound, and then they have to spell it all the ways that it can be spelled, that they have learned up until that point. And so, for example, if I say aw, then you're going to spell it AU, AW, AUGH, and OUGH. And so she's going to spell it out that way. Then you have the blending drill, and so that's where you write on the board, or you use the app that they have available for you to, the app pisses me off, and so I don't use it. I just write it, because like, I just don't like the app personally. But there is an app that you can use it to do the blending drill. And so then that's them practicing with decoding words from previous. So this is kind of like review from previous lessons, and so they're blending words. Then you introduce whatever the new concept is. If it's a day 2 lesson, you are reviewing whatever that new concept is. If you use the slideshows, it makes it very easy to do that. You just follow the slideshows, and you have the teaching manual in front of you, and then if you printed out the decodables and you have your set of cards, great. I did make like a big board for all of the like sounds and stuff. We keep forgetting to go back to it because we all have like ADHD in this house, so maybe you'll be better about it than I will. Then you teach them like how to articulate it. You can do the sound wall. You can put it up on a wall in your house as well. And then you have them practice reading words and then practice spelling words. That's day 1. And then day 2 is you review the new concept. You do word work. Then you do irregular words. Then you read sentences, 3 sentences. You spell 1 to 3 sentences. And then you read a decodable text. And that's the general format. So it's very like predictable structure. And even if you're homeschooling, I think that it's something you should look into and not be afraid to use it just because you only ever see it talked about for public school. It is absolutely something you can use in a homeschooling setting. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask me. I've been using it for enough time to be able to answer a fair number of questions, but hopefully you found that helpful.